junkyard, where the real ones fight not for a cause. Beyond the junkyard, no script, no mercy, leave your mark. Beyond the junkyard, where the real ones fight not for a cause. Beyond the junkyard, no script, no mercy, leave your mark. Beyond the junkyard, 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 beyond the junkyard.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I am your host, Junkyard James, and with me, like always, is the man, the myth, the legend, Kody Marinara. How are you doing, my friend? We survived part 1 of Snowmageddon. Part 2 coming this weekend. First off, are you ready for the snow or no?
Listen, we should be. If we can survive last week with the sleet, the freezing rain, and all that good stuff, then I think we should be good with if it's just snow. And that's what they're forecasting is whatever we get is just snow, is no ice, none of that crap. So yeah, I feel better about that. It's gonna be cold as hell. I think it's gonna be colder this weekend than it was last weekend, and that's saying something because last week was frigid. We are in the dog days of winter for sure. But I'm a little upset because if it does snow and we get a little bit of accumulation, we don't have any hills over here where we live. I got to find a hill because your boy got to do something stupid because, that's what we do whenever there's snow in the area. But yeah, I feel like we're part of a saga here. We had part 1 last week and now we're on to part 2 this weekend. Should be interesting. What about you up there in the northern side of where I am?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. I guess as ready as I can be. Look, I'm from Northern Virginia, DC area. They can keep the snow up there. At this point, I've seen enough snow in my entire life to not need it anymore. But alas, I guess I can't predict or control the weather. So we'll get more snow this weekend and it'll be fun, and we'll be hopefully there's no ice because this past weekend was mostly all ice, and it's been there's still areas in my neighborhood that are ice. So yeah, hopefully this is it, and then we can start getting warmer. And next week Puskatani Phil can see his can see or cannot, I don't know what it is, so we can get the spring quicker than winter. Please.
Pretty sure if he doesn't see his shadow, it's an early one. You know what? I don't know. It don't matter.
Look, I just want spring. I don't care if he sees a shadow or not. Just give me spring, damn it. Anyways, let's transition to some housekeeping real quick. If you guys are watching on the YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe and like button. Click that or scan that QR code in the top left-hand corner of the video, and make sure that you get connected to the Discord, like and subscribe to the channel, share this video, and let's build a community talking about mostly wrestling, but we've now branched out a little bit into some sports element, so we're slowly introducing that, and we'll do so today. We gotta quickly thank all of our affiliate partners, that being Dubby Energy, our good friends over at Dubby, RSS.com, WWE Shop, and StubHub. Thank you, everybody there. All of those links, like always, are down in the description notes If you're listening to this on the audio format, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. And let's get into the show with some of our sports conversation. There has been a lot of news in the sports world here recently. We're inching. I think we're about a week out of the NBA and NHL trade deadline. There's not a whole lot of news. I don't watch a whole lot of basketball. I don't think you do either. And there hasn't been a whole lot of rumors on if there's actually going to be a trade this year at the deadline for either sport that I can see that I've paid a little bit of attention to. But I think the biggest story this week is the fact that Bill Belichick, who some may consider, or most people may consider, the greatest head coach in NFL history. He's at least the most prestigious, won the most awards, most Super Bowl wins from a head coach, I believe, most Super Bowl appearances, second or third most amount of total wins in NHL history. It was announced this week that he is not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. We're both not Patriots fans. I think we don't have any skin in the game with this conversation. So I think this is a good conversation to start the show with. My friend, what are your thoughts about Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I think it's wrong. Plain and simple. To me, it's kind of a travesty that he's not the first ballot Hall of Famer. I know that as of, I believe today, only one of the 11 people who did not vote for Bill has come out and said why he did not vote for him. It had nothing to do about Spygate or Deflategate or anything like that. It was the fact that some of these other people were nearing their last chances of, I guess, getting voted in, and he felt like they would deserve to be voted in over Bill, saying that basically, without saying it, it made it seem like, yeah, Bill will get in next year, no problem, but we needed these guys to get in first ahead of him. I just feel like that's wrong. That's not the way you should be voting. If they weren't voted in previously, then
right,
this was the wrong time to put somebody who was very, very worthy of being a first ballot Hall of Famer on the back burner. I understand why L.C. Greenwood got in. He was one of the starting linebackers for that Iron Curtain Steelers defense and those teams that won 4 Super Bowls. I understand why he got in. That's totally understandable. His credentials speak for themselves. Roger Craig, I believe he was a starting running back for the 49ers in the 80s that won 3 Super Bowls. Created a lot of firsts for running backs in the league with different kind of pass catching, passing or receiving yards for running backs, touchdowns, things like that. Those 2 guys, totally understandable. Their credentials speak for themselves for sure when it comes to that. And these weren't guys that were secondary players that happened to win Super Bowls. These were impact players on their respective teams that were big contributors to their teams winning Super Bowls. And then you have a guy who's won more playoff games than any head coach in the history of the NFL. 6 Super Bowls? How many Super Bowl appearances? 8 or something like that? 9?
9.
And we can't unanimously vote for this guy to be in the Hall of Fame on the first round. Really? I mean, that's going to set a very unprecedented precedent. It's going to set a bad example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Bill was robbed. Should have been in the first round. And yeah, not a good week in the NFL PR for themselves. That, and then Shedeur Sanders gets in over like Trevor Lawrence for the Pro Bowl, which Pro Bowl is a joke anyway, so I guess it's par for the course. But yeah, no, Bill was robbed. He deserved to be in. And as far as I understand it, it can't really have any personal bias why he can't be in it. It has to be a legit reason, like a football reason. It's like really, really stringent rules as pertaining to voting. So like Deflategate and Spygate, I guess, are credible reasons for why you wouldn't vote for him. But anything personal wise is not credible. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, look, I'm a Bills fan, but I'll go out and say like Bill Belichick probably should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. And even with Spygate and Deflategate and all of that, let's just say all of that was played a part. I'm gonna look at some of the people that we have in the NFL Hall of Fame that, in my opinion, have done more egregious things and were voted into the Hall of Fame. Most of them, some of them, first ballot guys. Like look at Ray Lewis. I mean, allegedly, he killed a man, and he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, but deflating a couple footballs, I guess, doesn't get you in. He'll get in.
Take away Spygate and Deflategate.
Right.
One of those 2 seasons that they won the Super Bowl, I believe. Yeah, they made an appearance at the Super Bowl, I think, in both years that happened, and they won the Super Bowl one of those 2 years. If you take away both those appearances, that's still 7 Super Bowls and 5 Super Bowl wins.
Right.
What are we doing?
Right. Absolutely. And maybe you may have an argument I could see to say the overall balance of his career. He wasn't very good coaching the Browns. He wasn't very good after Brady left the Patriots, but he was the most dominant head coach and probably the greatest dynasty in NFL history, at least the longest reigning dynasty in NFL history. And so I don't know, like not every coach is going to be a great head coach at the beginning of their career. And I mean, towards the end of his career, there were other factors, Brady leaving, he hadn't been a very great drafter towards the back end of his time in New England. And so some of that reared its ugly head, and it's very hard to replace the greatest quarterback of all time. So, and look, I'm a Bills fan, so if I'm complimenting the New England Patriots, something's broken. So, but yeah, I don't know how much more we can add to this conversation. I do know the NFL listed out or put out a statement, I believe this morning or last night, basically saying they're investigating maybe, or if they find that some of these people were voting based off of dumb criteria, that there's a possibility some of them may get their title of being a Hall of Fame voter revoked. So at least the NFL's kind of trying to take it seriously, but I don't know. It's a joke. There's some more football stuff. I'll give a little spoiler for Saturday if I am able to put out an episode this Saturday. I'm hoping I will be able to. Saturday, the plan is to do basically an episode devoted to the signing of Buffalo Bills head coach Joe Brady. My initial thoughts, and then after the dust settled, I kind of have some thoughts that I once I was able to kind of look at the situation a little differently, not as emotionally driven as it was originally. I kind of came to a different perspective on Joe Brady, especially with his introductory press conference today. So that'll be Saturday's episode. Yeah, the last sports topic, though, that I want to talk about, I think is one that is an interesting point of conversation. If you follow the Major League Baseball, I feel like this has been a talking point for at least a decade now, maybe more, about the possibility of the MLB needing to institute some form of salary cap so that teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox can't just spend the GDP of a small country to buy up all the biggest players. And especially now, like the Dodgers are using a strategy that basically defers a lot of the money owed decades down the line. Shohei Ohtani will be paid probably by the Dodgers until the day he dies. With the way his contract is structured, he's going to be the Dodgers version of Bobby Bonilla. And all of it's legal, all of it's within the rules. I guess the question then is, should the MLB change the rules around the salary? And if it's not a salary cap, what is it? Is it a salary floor? Do we need to basically force other teams to say either spend more money on players or you're going to, be penalized with some sort of monetary penalty? So there's not a lot of parity in the MLB, and a lot of other sports have parity. I don't know. I guess I want to get your thoughts. What do you think needs to be done in the MLB in regards to salary and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a slippery slope either way you look at it. I think when I look at some of the leagues that have a hard salary cap, like the NHL, the NFL, to me, it just creates a better, I don't even want to say an even playing level, but it almost creates a better obstacle or illusion that, hey, if you guys don't spend a whole lot of money in free agency 1 year and the next year, you get a very good draft pick and then you have a lot of money to spend, you could turn your franchise around pretty quickly.
Right.
Same with the NHL a little bit, but not as much. NHL, to me, you really got to rely on building your farm system and really creating a strategic type of roster based on how guys you want to, you want to play. You want a faster team that's flying and scores on the rush a lot? Do you want a team that's better on the, dump and chasing, better on the forecheck, better on the back checking and doing a good defensive team? NHL, to me, you have a lot of a different, a couple different ways you can probably strategically build your team around based on the salary cap, and competing. NFL maybe a little bit too. Maybe we can kind of see that with the Patriots. They don't have this is kind of the Patriots team of old. They never have like the top wide receiver in the league, but their defense is very good and they play very sound football. But they did spend a lot of money in free agency this past season on defense. So I mean, it's still, you can probably still win, a couple different ways in the NFL. But when it comes to the MLB, you look at the Shohei Ohtani contract, you look at the Juan Soto contract. I mean, when you're pushing $400, $500, $600, $700 million for a player,
Right.
That's absurd. It's absurd, and most teams are not going to pay that. In the MLB, either you're going to have to force these owners to say, "Hey, listen, if you're not showing that you're willing to compete, we understand that there are bad years, there are down years, injuries happen, you don't have a very good farm system, or if you try to trade for some of the better players and it just doesn't work out, and that happens." But if there's not a hard salary cap, spend the money. I mean, I'm sure people in Pittsburgh are beyond frustrated with the fact that they've just had such a bad baseball team for seems like forever, to be honest with you. And they've got one of the best players in the league right now with Paul Skeens, and they still can't do it. Now, they did spend a little bit more money this offseason, but still. My thing is, like, with a hard salary cap, it could help out. It could help even out the playing field for all these teams without luxury tax loopholes. That seems to be what the biggest issue is teams are finding loopholes in that luxury tax that they can go over that ceiling, but yet defer it's, to me, it's complicating, but it just makes that's part of the reason why we need the salary cap. It's because it's so damn complicated. It's not cut and dry like the NFL and the NHL. Would players even do this? Probably not. I mean, you got to think about it, and I try to think about situations on both sides of the aisle. On one side, yes, having a salary cap, a hard salary cap, would even things out as far as other teams can have the capability in smaller markets, for ownership to be able to compete a little bit better.
Right.
However, if you're a player, it's going to diminish your value. You're not going to get those 8-9 figure contracts. You're going to get most 6-7, which of course, thank you very much. Appreciate that. which is still an absurd amount of money. Um, but I mean, should the owners spend more money? At what cost? If you're buying these franchises, you should be expecting to already be paying a top dollar to be able to for the amenities for players to build a competitive roster. But I mean, it's again, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. So the biggest obstacle I think the MLB has for instituting some form of salary cap or salary floor is I think the ownership group would argue that in all these other form of sports, the NFL, the NBA, NHL, the teams they all have salary caps, but that salary cap is regulated by the revenue share that the teams share within the NFL. So the NFL gives money to all of these teams so essentially a lot of the money is coming out of that part of the CBA agreement, and it's not coming out of some large ownership group's pocket. The NFL is paying for these players, and the owners are like, I don't know. It's a difficult obstacle because there's no revenue sharing, and so to tell a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who I don't know what the ownership group of the Pirates looks like, but I'm assuming it's like a small group of people that have some form of ownership stake in Pittsburgh, to tell them to put $900 million on the table to compete with the Dodgers. They may not be able to afford that with the current way that the MLB runs their salary system. Is the money comes directly from the ownership group. For a while, the Atlanta Braves did not pay players. Their ownership group said, we're not going to put a large amount of money into baseball because we don't make a whole lot of money back in return if we were to pay extra. Now, here recently, the Braves have started to pay their guys a little bit, but there still are some Braves fans. Like I heard the other day on, what was it, 680 The Fan? I think that's their local radio station down there in Atlanta. They were saying because of the Cody Bellinger deal, the Braves may want to consider trading Ronald Acuna, because when his contract ends in 2 years, they may not be able to afford what Acuna may want. And so trade him now and get more assets out of him. And as a Braves fan, it's like, no, don't trade Ronald Acuna. We want to win this. We want to be competitive. But that is something with the way it works now, is some of these mid to smaller market teams or ownership groups, they can't compete with the Dodgers, who is a large conglomeration of people who can put up money. And so while it is business, I do think there has to be some regulation I think the MLB has to step in and say something has to be done. That you can't buy a championship roster every year. I mean, what are Vegas odds of the Dodgers winning the World Series this year? I mean, it almost has to be 1-1. Like they almost have to have a 95% chance of winning the World Series this year, because their roster is an all-star team. And so that's the danger of allowing this system to play out. But the danger of trying to change the system is that these ownership groups are going to say, well, we just won't play baseball. And I think their CBA comes up at the end of this season or next season. And so now it's time to get to the negotiation table. And
correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Manfred's not going to be coming back soon, right? And so, I mean, is he going to be really a part of these? I guess he is, if he's going to be the owner or the commissioner. But we have to look at it from from a 20,000-foot perspective of the commissioner now won't be the commissioner in 4 or 5 years. You know, what is his say going to be involved with this? Because he's on his way out. So what does it matter?
Right.
He's going to me, I think he'll cater pretty easily because he's on his way out. He doesn't care. It's going to be somebody else's mess.
Right.
Which could be a bad thing. Who knows?
Right. I don't know. It's a slippery slope. My guess would be somewhere in the middle of a compromise would be maybe they do what the NHL does, because the NHL banned long-term deferments of contracts. I think that needs to be the first step. Is you can't defer the money out 50 years. Like maybe limit how long you can defer the money out. I think that'll change the way that some of these ownership groups pay their players. If they have to, instead of 20-year deferments, it's 5 or 7-year deferments. Because at the end of the day, this ownership group, the Dodgers are not the only thing that they own. And and I'm sure they don't make a whole lot of money on margin if they had to pay Shohei Ohtani, $70 million every year. But instead, they pay Shohei Ohtani $20 million over 50 years, and now they can make a little bit of money every year. So I think that's the first step. Could be, hey, let's change the, let's put some regulation on how far you can defer these contracts out, and then work there. Maybe make it more of an incentive not to not spend, to spend a little bit more money. Make it, hey, if you spend more money year over year, there can be an incentive to that. That way, some of these lower budget teams can spend more money, so that they can be more competitive. Because at the end of the day, I mean, do we want to see the Dodgers Yankees World Series for 700 years in a row? Like that's just where I'm looking at it. Like Paul Skeens, like you mentioned him earlier, probably the greatest pitcher in the MLB right now, and could go down as one of the best pitchers to ever pitch in MLB history. If he was on a legitimate team that was competing at the stat line that he has put up in his career, and he had just a little bit of run support, he would only have like 3 losses on his record. But instead, he's on Pittsburgh with a mediocre team and no run support. And so he has a losing win-loss record with a sub-2 ERA. It is absolutely astonishing how great of a pitcher he is. And like same thing like Mike Trout. At his prime, Mike Trout was one of the best players in baseball. Stuck on a team in LA, the Angels, who usually choked out of the playoffs at the last minute, but wouldn't spend the money to get him anybody to help him. And so there has to be a compromise at some point in time. All right. We're going. Oh, let me throw this comment up and get your reaction on it. Let's be honest, though. No one wants to see Pittsburgh versus Kansas City in the World Series. Casual fans want to see LA, New York, Philly, and Boston. Your reaction to that?
Naturally, you're going to probably have a bigger market. So, yeah, of course, you want to have some of those bigger teams be in the World Series from a league perspective. But from an outsider's perspective,
right,
of non-fans of those teams, absolutely, I'd like to see a Kansas City versus Pittsburgh World Series. Those are, especially Pittsburgh, one of the most historic franchises in the MLB, and the Royals have a long history too.
Right. I mean, how many people were cheering for the Brewers over the Dodgers this year? People like to see these smaller market teams thrive. And maybe it is like, again, from a casual versus hardcore perspective, but fans of baseball want to see more parity. They want to see different teams. They want to be able to say, like, in the MLB, you don't get what we got this year in the NFL. where 2 4-win teams last year end up winning their division in 14 like the Jaguars and the Patriots, 4-13 last year. They both went 14-3 this year. You don't get that in the MLB because the teams that are losing a lot of games will not spend the money to become that.
Now, yeah, no, I agree. Now, I will give him the kudos. And again, I think it's just because of the way the markets are set up, and this is going for his point. So, like the Rangers versus Diamondbacks were in the World Series a few years ago. Completely unexpected World Series. Nobody saw that coming. Right. And it was fun because it was two different teams, two teams who you didn't see coming into the World Series. And in baseball, to me, you don't luck your way into the World Series. If you're the
Right.
World Series, you know you're going against the best. You have series. You have to win multiple games in series. And those are two teams that it was a fun World Series to watch because it was two teams we didn't expect. You know, I wouldn't say those are two of the biggest, well-known fan-based franchises in the history of the MLB, but they're in smaller markets. And if you go on the internet, that's the lowest rated World Series in history. Those two teams drew the lowest ratings numbers wise, and of course, I think it's because of the small market teams. They didn't have superstar players on their teams. They had a few well-known players for sure. Right. I think Bumgarner was on the Diamondbacks at that point. Corey Seager was on the Rangers. So you had some good players, great players, but they weren't your superstars. And I'm sure, and I think that had to do with that as well. But it's fun to see two teams who aren't at the highest of the payrolls get in and compete for a World Series title. But
right,
again, it's you can see the argument for both sides for that, for sure. But it is what it is. If you watch the game for the game, you can enjoy it. And I don't think a whole lot of casuals watch baseball because it's not the NFL. It's not a very action-packed sport. It's filled with drama and intense moments, but you have to be a true baseball fan to be able to appreciate that. And it's one of those things. If you're not a big fan in a big market, like you can be a casual Yankees fan, but if they're doing great, you're going to be a hardcore Yankees fan, being like, "Yeah, man, we're doing great. We're leading the division. We're in the playoffs. We're going to the World Series."
Right.
You're a fan. You're going to watch, and those are big, huge markets, so they're naturally going to watch. But it's what it is.
Right. All right. Let's transition out of sports talk. Let's move into what everybody comes here to see on a weekly basis. Let's talk about some pro wrestling, starting with our mid-card meltdown. And I guess I'll open it up. Is there anything this week inside the wrestling world or even outside of the wrestling world that has kind of grinded your gears a little bit, my friend?
Ole Miss tampered. They should be fine. They should no longer be playing college football. Give us our player back. Screw Ole Miss. I'm glad Lane Kiffin left. We're probably going to get trashed by LSU in week 1, so it's not going to matter. That did grind my gears a little bit, was that whole situation, but we'll see what happens. I don't think anything will happen with that because it's unprecedented in the NCAA, and you have to have something to set a precedent. And I don't think that there's anything that's going to happen to Ole Miss, but I think that it's going to be like a slap on the wrist, and now they're going to make things happen. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hell yeah. Put Jackson State ahead of them in the SEC right now. Boy, that'd be something. No, for real, though.
I mean, we talk about the MLB, and their salary stuff. NIL and transfer portal, and now we're getting players to sign contracts and then still enter the transfer portal. And so now schools are wanting to sue players for money this is disgusting. The NCAA needs to step in at some point in time, or else college football may not exist in a couple of years. Like,
yeah. And we talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago about this whole NIL transfer portal thing, and there's really no easy answer because it's gotten so far so bad
Right.
so quickly. And I mean, most people saw this coming, but now it's like, how do you pull the reins back? How do you control this now? And what Dabo said in his presser, I don't think it would be a be all end all, one size fits all, perfect thing
Yeah.
of the things that he said he would fix. It would be running the ship in the right direction, but it would still need to be so much work to be done to even fix that whole situation. But anyways, this really doesn't. It's not that it grinded my gear. There really wasn't a whole lot, in my opinion, that I found that really struck a nerve with me this past week. But one thing that I'm a little skeptical about is, and we're going to kind of get into a little bit of a topic here in just a minute about it, but this whole Gunther thing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's facing AJ at the Rumble in 2 days. If AJ loses, he must retire from WWE, we assume. Most of these bookers will lay out a story.
Right.
Here's where we're going. Here's what we're doing, leading to this big moment. Naturally, if you're on the other side listening to this, or if you're the talent listening to this, you get to that big moment. Your natural response should be awesome.
Right.
Then what? Throw that wrench in their face and say, okay, that's awesome. That's going to be a great moment. Or it could be a good moment. It could be a risk. It could be whatever. Then what? What happens then? That's where I kind of see with this Gunther situation. Okay, if he beats AJ at the Rumble and he, quote unquote, retires AJ at the Rumble, then what?
Right.
Is he going to enter the Rumble match later that night? Is he going to win the Royal Rumble? I think he has to win if he enters the Rumble match. What do you do with him after this? What do you do with him at Mania? You don't have to just all of a sudden put the title on this guy and say, yep, this is it.
Right.
But I'm not saying WWE is booking themselves in a corner with him yet. But they got some tricky situations ahead of here. Because if you feed him AJ and he beats him, okay, now where do we go?
Right.
We're just going to keep retiring people and be the retiree guy.
That feels like that's his place now. I mean,
you can't put him on the mid card at Mania, can you? Retiring John Cena and AJ Styles. How do you put him in a match? Do you have them? I mean, I guess you have to put him in a world title match of some sort, I would think. But, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's the goal. But it's like, okay, well, all right, we get to Mania. He retires Jericho. Okay, then what? Retires Lesnar at SummerSlam. Cool. Okay, then what? And yeah, you could probably do it for every story. Okay, then what? Then what? Then what? Until you're like, all right, we should probably stop asking that. But if his legacy is that he retired these guys, I guess that's fine. But at some point, like, you run out of these legends to retire.
Right.
What do you do?
And that was going to be the point I was just going to bring up. Like, eventually you run out of guys who need to retire. Like, all right, you get Jericho, and then you get Lesnar, and then what? Rey Mysterio maybe, and then Gunther's not some spring chicken. He's closer to retirement than not. So I don't know. I mean, I get where they're going, and that's probably the lane that they'll run with, but I mean, what?
Like I said, I'm not mad. It's not that I'm like shitting on the booking. I'm not.
Right.
Really, I promise you, I'm not. I just look at it from a perspective of, okay, that's cool, but these are older guys.
Mm-hmm.
Are we really going to say anything about Jericho retiring? I mean, he's kind of been in that retiree type of stage for the last 3-4 years.
Right.
Is it a big deal that he retired Cena? Yeah. AJ, I would say so. Lesnar, I would say Lesnar over Jericho. And then, you start kind of diminishing the name quality. Okay, Rey Mysterio is a great talent. If you retired him, it's a small guy against a big guy. That's not impressive. Who's going to retire next? The Miz?
Randy Orton, maybe?
R-Truth? I mean, you're going to start running out of he can't retire The Undertaker. I mean, you're just going to start you're going to be picking at straws at that point. And it's like, I hope they have a plan if that's the goal, to get a Mania with Jericho, get to SummerSlam with Lesnar, cool. That's fine. After that, where do we go from there? Because there's going to be a lull of retirement, unless WWE is just going to be like, all right, you got to retire, you got to retire, you got to retire.
Right.
Unless that's their way of writing them off of TV and out of the company. But yeah, I'm just kind of really perplexed and intrigued to see where the next few months and even year or two go with Gunther, and where this leads to. What happens to him? How do they keep his names? How do they keep his stock up? And yeah, like I said, it's not something that's like grinded my gears per se or made me mad, but it's just something I was like really, really thinking about. Like that's a tricky situation. They're kind of inching their way into.
Right. No, and I agree with this point here. I mean, Gunther was the greatest thing in the world just a couple years ago, and nowadays it's, I mean, maybe long storytelling ahead. Keith Lee maybe was right when he said, if the rumors were true, good luck to Walter. Well, he had his moment as Gunther, and part of it feels like they ended his stable really out of the blue. They fired Giovanni Vinci, and then they move Ludwig Kaiser to be El Grande Americano. And so now, to me, he's not a guy that, I don't know, he just kind of feels mid-card, and it's like he's better than that. And they want to present him to be this, career killer, but like he's on the mid-card. Like he's not beating the best of the best right now. Maybe he retires Roman in a couple of years, but like, why? He was world champion at one point. He doesn't need those rubs. Why? It doesn't make sense from that perspective in my view. For me, I didn't really have anything, like you said, there wasn't a whole lot that was like super irritating this week in the WWE AEW landscape. But I do want to tell a little bit of a story about some stuff that I posted on social media. So if you've listened to the channel for quite some time, probably, what was it, 5 or so months ago, I got in a little bit of a Twitter beef with Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp over the dumbest thing ever in the world. And the way he responded to the situation, to me, showed a lack of, I don't know, being an adult or whatnot. But just the other week, I was trying to make a joke with the Impact TV numbers on opening night, basically saying like, these are the numbers, they couldn't even hit 100K, and they're no longer the second best company. Well, I got those numbers originally from WrestleNomics. I subscribed to them on their Patreon, and they posted the numbers. Well, immediately after I posted that tweet, I copied, same thing I did with Sean Ross Sapp. I gave them credit in the tweet and all of that mess. I get a DM from Brandon Thurston, which runs WrestleNomics, and I was like, oh God, not again. But no, he responded in a way that people should respond. He said, hey, my mistake, these numbers are wrong. Essentially, they got the numbers wrong, and then sent me a link to the correct number. And like, that's just how it is. Like, he probably realized, okay, this is a paying customer to my business. We fed incorrect information. We want to make sure that he has the right information, because if he's going to aggregate our information, which by the way, I still don't get paid for my tweets. I don't even qualify for X's payment option. I don't have enough viewership or followers or any of that. So, but I don't know. There's just a distinct difference. And again, I don't have no beef with Sean Ross Sapp. I just think sometimes he responds to things a little too personally when it's just a business conversation. Like I don't have any personal beef with him. I just think he runs his business a little differently, you know, a little immaturely sometimes. So yeah. That'll be my mid-card meltdown moment. Just thank you, Brandon Thurston. Thank you, WrestleNomics, for showing how to properly, you know, hey, you used my information. I want to make sure you have the right info. So I appreciate that. And we're going now to transition into some of the biggest wrestling news of the week. All right, we'll start with the Royal Rumble. You know it's this weekend, right?
Listen, you know, if I hadn't been on social media and see that, you know, the updates with the Rumble set, and even some people complaining that y'all know the Rumble's in a week, right? And they're like, wait, what? If I hadn't knew that ahead of time, then no, I would have not known. But thanks to that, I tried to do my best Royal Rumble participation by wearing the 04 Royal Rumble event t-shirt tonight. My first ever WWE or wrestling show in general that I attended now 22 years ago.
What an iconic show, by the way.
Yeah, I love the fact that Eddie Guerrero still won the Royal Rumble. And he wasn't even in the match. I mean, that's pretty impressive. It's almost like vacant. Amazing match. But yeah, it's, if I hadn't known that before, I would have not known that the Rumble was this weekend.
Yeah, they did an absolutely terrible job at building this show for, in my opinion, the casual viewer. I mean, if ESPN, I don't think has said a word about the pay-per-view on any of their content. I watch ESPN a lot. I don't remember them ever saying anything about it. If you would have asked me what time the pay-per-view played, I would tell you, I don't know. 8:00? Is that when pay-per-views are on? Well, no, this one's at 2 p.m. on was it Sunday this week? Saturday, Sunday? I don't know what day it is.
I'm pretty sure it's Saturday.
Okay, so Saturday at 2. Like, what a random time to start a pay-per-view. But obviously it's in Saudi Arabia, so to be fair to everyone, that's what it's going to be. Yeah, there's no build. There was more build behind Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes' feud than the Royal Rumble. Which I guess we might as well ask this question here. Who wins the Rumbles, the men's and the women's? I guess if you had to make a prediction.
I couldn't even tell you who is even
right
in position. Usually there's sprinkles and inclinations of like, all right, this guy is kind of starting to seem like he's going to get a big push here. This is who we have an idea.
Right.
I mean, I guess for the men's, Cody, I don't know.
Right.
I feel like Roman, if he's even in the Rumble match, I don't know. Lesnar, I heard Lesnar's in the Rumble match. Lesnar versus McIntyre for the WWE title again. Yeah, I really don't know. And for the female, you had to put a gun to my head. I couldn't even give you an idea.
It's got to be Mr. Iguana winning the Royal Rumble. And then instead of main eventing WrestleMania, he'll main event Triple A's biggest show. Was it Super
Triple Mania?
Triple Mania, yeah. It's not WrestleMania, Triple Mania. No. No, in reality, I think it's Roman. I think Roman wins, or dare I say this, The Rock. I think The Rock could win it.
Don't do that.
um,
Don't do that.
yeah, I don't. Like you said, I don't watch a whole lot of WWE content, but you usually kind of know who your players and your non-players are just by if you pay a little bit of attention to social media. I couldn't tell you. I know Triple H promised a lot of surprises for the 12th pay-per-view in a row, and so
Here's a question I have, and for the resident WWE fan in the chat, and maybe you know it, I don't know. Is the Rumble on ESPN, ESPN Plus, or is it on ESPN Unlimited?
I think it's on ESPN Unlimited. So here's how it sets up. I'll tell you how this works. Which I'm gonna hold first thing before I get to that. I'm gonna hold you accountable to this. If Dwayne shows up, I do not want another NXT show on this TV ever again, my friend. Only AEW. No, the way it works with ESPN is ESPN Unlimited is not its own separate app. It is a tab inside the ESPN app. So you use your ESPN account that you already create, and then you have to buy the add-on or connect your Fubo account.
Hold on. Here we go. All right. So I'm on the ESPN app on my phone.
Right.
On my tabs, I have home, scores. Oh, see, I do that. And at the bottom, like as soon as I pull up ESPN, at the very bottom, it says watch WWE Royal Rumble. And you click on this thing. And then it says, how do I activate my ESPN Unlimited plan through my pay TV provider? Okay.
Yep.
So at least when you open the app, it immediately gives you a tab to go and do this.
Right.
Because when I was on my phone, like if I press done and went off of it, I have home, scores, watch verts, and more.
You go to watch. You go to watch. And so you're going to get your ESPN Plus and stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the you still have to buy the unlimited plan, which is I believe like somewhere at the bottom. Yeah, if you scroll to the bottom, it shows all the channels, and then you got to go down and pick ESPN Unlimited at the bottom to get the ESPN Unlimited content.
Ah, okay. Yep, I see it now.
Yep. So it's very confusing, and ESPN didn't implement this very great. And yeah, but anyways, where was I at? I can't remember.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, it's either Roman, maybe The Rock.
Dare we push another member of the bloodline? Fatu?
They could push Fatu. Maybe, I don't know. Again, it's not like there's a super front runner. I see all year I thought, oh, let's go be Sami Zayn. I thought Sami Zayn was the guy. Well, he's probably not going to be in the match because he has a match with Drew McIntyre for the championship on the pay-per-view. So unless he goes first and loses, then maybe Sami comes out and wins the Royal Rumble afterwards. But I don't know. I think Sami Zayn ends up being the champion at the end of the night. And so Roman makes sense. Maybe The Rock makes a little bit of sense. You'd have to have a heel in some fashion because Sami Zayn's a face at this point. So
do we get Kevin Owens returning and winning the Rumble, or is that not a possibility?
Has he been cleared? He just had neck surgery, so
never mind.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I don't know. Nothing makes sense. There's not a story that I think if you have a winner here that makes any sense at all. You'd have to end a story in the middle to get something that makes sense. And part of me feels like maybe Brock Lesnar could win it. I don't know. Somebody that's not in a story that only wants a WWE, like a WrestleMania push. Brock could win it, get the shock value, because that's all WWE is looking for. This guy keeps saying LA Knight, but it's not going to be LA Knight. You know they're not going to push LA Knight.
Listen, I would love it, but it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Speaking, well, let's do this other story first. Last night on AEW Dynamite, Mark Briscoe beat El Clone for the TNT Championship in a title match, defended the belt, and issued an open challenge for Saturday, which, by the way, El Clone is a fantastic wrestler. I hope to see more of him in the future. But the bigger story of the night is Tommaso Ciampa made his AEW debut last night and will make his in-ring debut on Saturday to fight Mark Briscoe. His presentation, his song, his Titantron, his everything last night was absolutely phenomenal. Like I watched it late, so I read the spoiler before I saw it actually happen. And so, but I still got goosebumps watching it, even though I knew it was coming. I would only imagine my reaction would have been a lot better if it was a Raw reaction. But yeah, I don't know. Your thoughts on Ciampa and where he fits in the AEW field?
I'll be honest. I vaguely remember him having the rumors of going to AEW, or having his contract come up for WWE. So when the lights went out, I had absolutely no idea who it was.
Yeah.
And then the Psycho Killer thing came up. I'm like, Psycho Killer. No, okay. Talking Heads, that song. And I was like, oh, who the hell is this? I thought I really honestly had no idea. And then when I saw him and Tommaso Ciampa, I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, this is cool. You would have to think, and we're starting to get a little ridiculous with this whole damn Don Callis thing. I would dare say that's probably the best debut presentation AEW's ever had.
Right.
Sting obviously has to be up there. The way they smartly did the double debut of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson at the end of All Out 2021. That was really cool. But just from a presentation standpoint, the Tron, the music, the presentation, that was one of the best, if not the best, AEW's ever done. And it was awesome that happened. I'm very interested to see what happens in his run here. And I've said it before, at least in our group chat. I don't want him in AEW for 5 years.
Right.
And I know he's near the end of his career too, which is fine. Give me 2 years of him. That should be the best 2 years that he has from a performance standpoint. Give me some of these good matches and storylines, and let him just push over these talents. I could see him winning a TNT title, maybe an international title. That'd be fine.
Right.
Don't sniff that world title. Don't do it. But like I said, maybe one of those secondary mid-card titles would be fine. But
Right.
have some matches and good stories that push and elevate these talents to a better spot. He's a decently known name. I don't think he's going to deliver, the big boost of ratings. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
But the initial shock of people who, and he's been in the WWE system for a while, so naturally when people see it on social media, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of engagement for sure. But yeah, I just want him to put on some good matches, good stories, and elevate talent. And yeah, I think it's a good name for AEW to bring in from a veteran's perspective to kind of elevate some of these younger talents to hopefully bigger stardom and name recognition.
Right. To me, he is and I said this in one of my Discord servers that I'm a part of, he can be the guy that because he mentioned this guy mentioned to me that he's going to start watching AEW and again And I don't know if Ciampa made that decision for him or if it was just like something that he was planning on doing anyway. But I think he has a face that if you're like scrolling through the channel and you see his face, you're like, oh, okay, Johnny Gargano's guy, partner, DIY. Like he's recognizable enough for somewhat casual fans to know who he is. And maybe it then can get them in the door of, hey, WWE actually was holding him back a little bit on how good he actually can be. He's obviously towards the back end of his career. So I agree with you there. I don't think he has to be like a main event guy, but I think he can put on some really good matches and put some of the top or the up and coming roster members over. I guess he's going to be a heel. I don't know. He's accepting an open challenge, so it's not like he's automatically heel or face right now at this point. But I could imagine him and Takeshita putting on a good match, him and Kyle Fletcher putting on a good match, him and, there's several other people on AEW's roster that I think could benefit from a match with him. And to be honest, I wouldn't be upset if he was a mainstay in ROH because he has that ROH presence. He used to wrestle in ROH. So, I don't know. I think maybe this is a push. Tony Khan's going to start buying a lot of people that have some form of knowledge. He knows he knows he's going to need another company to buy into AEW or ROH and get a TV deal or a streaming deal at some point in the upcoming future. So I think a desperate Tony Khan may buy up some of these more known guys just for a little bit of time and may not. My biggest concern is he going to have this match with Mark Briscoe, lose, and then get the Ace Austin treatment and then not be seen for 6 months? And so
I hope not.
Right. And so we got to play it smart, but we don't have to give him a world title match like next week. So speaking of world title matches, Andrade gets a match with Kenny Omega, I guess, at the Australian show. Is that right? Did I hear that right? Do I understand? Or is it next week? I don't know. It was very confusing because I heard it multiple.
The graphic showed Andrade versus Kenny next week on Dynamite.
Next week. So then the winner gets a title match at the Australia show. Is that right?
No.
The
winner gets a world title shot at Revolution.
I believe
it's Brody King versus MJF at the Australian Grand Slam show.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, there were several dates that were thrown around, and
yeah,
this is what we were saying in our group chat, that between January, and this is what I had to tell this guy, like, this might not be the best time for you to jump into AEW because there is no stories. They're just throwing stuff together until we get closer to Revolution. And it always happens in January and February. They don't have a pay-per-view to write stories for. So you're just going to get – Tony Khan likes to use the first couple months of the year to experiment a little bit before getting into Revolution season. And so who knows? With maybe the exception of last year because we had Wrestle Dynasty in January. But yeah, so it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens with Ciampa. We'll see what happens with anybody else that may get called up into AEW here in the foreseeable future, which brings us to the last wrestling topic. All right, so you mentioned it earlier. Gunther fights AJ Styles at WrestleMania on Saturday. Royal Rumble on Saturday. There was a post from Shinsuke Nakamura that I guess as soon as WWE saw it went viral, they forced him, or maybe he realized, it's probably not the best thing to post. So he deleted it pretty soon after. But basically translated to saying AJ told him he's retiring at WrestleMania or Royal Rumble this year. Which means this would be AJ Styles' final match in a WWE ring, concluding a 10-year run in WWE. First off, this came out of nowhere. Like, we kind of figured AJ was retiring this year. But we thought we had a whole year with this guy, not 30 days into 2026. And so this kind of came out of the blue, and mix in with AJ Styles either modifying or reapplying for his trademarks. Because I believe when he signed with WWE, he owned the trademark to his name and insignia, but like leased it to WWE. So I don't know, but recently he had to make some changes or reapply or whatnot for his trademarks, the phenomenal AJ Styles and his P1 insignia, which leads people to believe he's not done. What happens to AJ Styles?
I mean, I guess he could go on some of these Wrestle conventions, Wrestle cons, use his name, likeness, image, all that good stuff. And it brought up a point that I put in our group chat earlier about, like, okay, if he was going to TNA for a quick run, does he really need this trademark? If WWE, like, if he signed a WWE Legends deal, like, would he still need this trademark? How does this whole thing work if WWE talent is on it, TNA talent on WWE? Like, how does this whole thing work? And with their partnership, like, it just, to me, felt very complicating. And maybe I was complicating it, I don't know. But then, looking on social media and whatnot, it's like, why would he really need to run in TNA? I know they teased that would be funny as hell. I'd be okay with that if he beat the shit out of all of them. Vince Russo, yes, that would be great. Here, this is payback from 03, you son of a bitch. But besides Kazarian in a world title match,
right?
A couple guys in there, Leon Slater. I mean, there's not much talent wise in there for really him to wrestle,
right?
That I feel would be really compelling, and maybe he could be to end where he started, kind of. And I get it. But I don't know. I think, first of all, I thought that 2026. Yes, we knew that this was going to be his last year, and I was like, all right, let me mentally prepare myself for, I give it August or September, maybe Survivor Series, who knows?
Right.
And then I saw WrestleMania was going to be possibly his last match, and I'm like, all right, now I got to mentally prepare myself for 4 months of this.
Right.
And then now it's possibly tomorrow or 2 days. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. I ain't ready for that.
Right.
Now, also in that group chat, I said I had a thought.
Okay.
I got it.
All right.
And I had to type this up because if I didn't type this up, I would have forgotten the whole entire damn thing. So this is how I look at it. AJ loses on Saturday. He's not seen on television. He's not seen anywhere. Or maybe he goes to TNA for a couple matches, and we think he's in TNA. While on the other channel, on the Turner Network television, or the Turner Broadcasting Station. Next week on Dynamite, Kenny Omega beats Andrade on Dynamite. Okay. MJF has to beat and will beat that liberal Nazi piece of shit. King. He beats him at Grand Slam Australia, retains his world title. And it sets up officially MJF versus Kenny Omega for the AEW world title at Revolution in Los Angeles, March 13th, 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Omega is about to win this world title.
Yep.
He's about to right the wrong. He's about to free us of the MJF curse.
Right.
Those lights go out. Those damn lights, man, they go out. They go out. The Capitals just blew a 2-goal lead in 2 minutes. That's fantastic. We were 1 minute away from winning. I hate this team. So let's go out. AJ Styles debuts.
Yep.
Puts up the Bullet Club symbol. Gives it to Kenny Omega. Omega reciprocates that. Gives it back to him. AJ grabs that some bitch's arm. Kicks him in the nuts. Gives him a good old Styles clash. Lets MJF keep the world title. That's how we debut AJ Styles in AEW. So he can avenge the beatdown that Kenny Omega gave him in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2016 to take over Bullet Club. And because AEW has a working partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, they can use that footage onto their television. And AEW is great with having these old storylines come back to fruition. With the ROH stuff, with the NJPW stuff. This is history reliving itself, continuing a 10-year storyline that got left off in January 2016, reigniting in March 2026. We get the build for that, and we get AJ. It gives him an immediate impact from a storyline perspective,
right?
And a one that makes sense, and that's how we get that. And sets up Kenny versus AJ, either a dynasty or Double or Nothing, and off we go.
Well, then you also get the vignette from the Young Bucks last night on Dynamite. And they said they're going back to some old school Young Bucks. Maybe they play a part in it as well. Yep. I had a thought as well for AJ, and it kind of goes along the same lines, but a little bit differently. So my biggest thing is I always thought we're leading up to All In being Ospreay versus Omega for the belt. I think that's been my story going forward. But wouldn't it be great if instead, let's just say Omega wins the title at Revolution against Maxwell, and then Ospreay comes back, and they have their feud be in fruition, ending at Double or Nothing. So we get away the Ospreay versus Omega, and then at Double or Nothing we have the fight. Or before then, let's back up a little bit. We have the Owen Hart tournament. There's a Joker spot usually in every Owen Hart tournament, and we introduce AJ Styles as the Joker of the Owen Hart tournament. He goes on to win the Owen Hart tournament at Double or Nothing. At the same show, Omega fights Ospreay, and Ospreay wins, setting up AJ Styles versus Will Ospreay at All In.
I think if we got Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles, or AJ Styles versus Will Ospreay, I think either way we're selling more than 50,000 tickets at one stadium. Yeah. I'll tell you that much.
I'll tell you, that might be the most bought pay-per-view of all time, of the modern century. Because
maybe, I don't know, but
it's look, now that we fantasy booked this, AJ's going to beat Gunther and re-sign with WWE. So
that's exactly what's going to happen. But I want you to clip these videos of my idea and your idea, so that way, if that either one of our things were to happen, we can post it and say, "Hey, listen, we had a month and a half head start on that." Yeah, I mean, you would have to think that AJ's not done yet. That TNA makes sense for him to go back to and finish up a little bit there. And like I said, maybe he does that with the tease with Frankie Kazarian. I don't know TNA's pay-per-view schedule. I don't know if they have a pay-per-view in February. But it would make sense if AJ showed up there, challenged Kazarian for the world title. Even if he loses, gives us the inclination that he's going to do some stuff in TNA. And then a month later, showed up in AEW. Right. To kind of just swerve of the fans. But I think that it would be cool if we got
Right.
AJ in AEW, be with his friends, kind of reset the Elite a little bit.
Yep.
Easy story to pick up on, and we'll give him something to pick up right where, just pick up immediately. But yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens. And this, like you said, this all could be absolute BS in 2 days if AJ wins. So next Thursday we could look like a bunch of idiots saying, well, I guess that's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting. There. Look, if Finn Balor shows up as well, Prince Devitt, I guess, is what he'll go by. We could have a like fatal 4-way with Jay White, Kenny Omega, AJ Styles, and Finn Balor for leader of the Bullet Club, because they all have at some point in time been the leader of the. Oh, maybe we can put Okada in there to have a fatal 5-way or something. I don't know.
That would be very, very interesting.
Right. All right. We're going to wrap up this show like we always do with a what if question. And that what if question is this. If you could tell, or if Tony Khan gave you the ability to sign one wrestler in all of the world that is not signed to AEW, to sign them to AEW, which wrestler would it be and why?
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart?
Stone Cold Steve Austin. No.
Bret Hart? 90-year-old Ric Flair?
Yeah, well, we already had that. No, we're good.
Just some more woo energy.
Please no. Because I like to think of our show sometimes as whose line is it anyway, where the rules are made up and the points don't matter.
Right.
So naturally I picked two guys, and I actually picked a female.
Okay.
One of these might surprise you a little bit.
Okay.
Might. It may not. If I'm Tony Khan, the first person I wrote down, Roman Reigns.
Okay.
One of the most recognizable faces in WWE in the last 15 years, besides Cena, of course, and some of the others. You want to bring the casuals over? There's your chance right there. It has to be heel. He can be on the mic. Put him with Don Callis, I guess. I don't give a damn. But give him somebody else as a good manager and just let him feed, man. Let him just tear through the entire roster and build him up as this monster heel like he was in WWE, and just let him go to work, man. The other one that I wrote down, a little bit more of a better Tony. This would be more of a Tony Khan thing. Kevin Owens.
Mm-hmm.
Indie Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen was awesome, and it'd be cool to see him back in the, Kevin Steen type of thing. He has a history, obviously, in ROH, big history. Most of the guys in AEW he has been friends with or has history with, not most, but quite a few. So it'd be a natural fit. He can deliver on the mic. He can really help those guys on the promo side of things. Obviously, he's great in the ring. So I think that'd be really cool to see that. I wrote down one female, and I went through the entire roster, and I'm like, okay, who would make the most sense that I think would make the most sense?
Right.
Natalya.
Okay.
Give me that independent Natty Neidhart, whatever she went by. That I don't give a damn attitude.
Oh, you can get that on Monday night now.
Well, evidently that's what I've heard, but I think it would be better suited for the AEW audience.
Right.
Pair this woman with Marina Shafir, and I think that would be a pretty crazy combination. That maybe she joins the Death Riders, who knows? But yeah, that'd be interesting. I think that'd be really, and she would obviously elevate that women's division tremendously.
Right.
Very experienced, could really help with training the women, being a coach behind the scenes, promo work, obviously, but in ring work. A really good mentor in the women's locker room would elevate them tremendously. Be a really good veteran presence, but yeah, that's what I would pick if I was Tony Khan.
Yeah. So I kind of was in the same mindset of like, there's a couple that I would tell Tony Khan to pick. Like if he gave me my recommendations, I'd give him a list of a couple people. On top of that list is Trick Williams. He's already great, but I think he can perform better in the ring and than WWE allows him to show. So Trick Williams. I also think there's several women that would do really well in AEW. Some of them off the top of my head, Steph DeLander, Jasmine Allure, which I guess technically was in AEW last night. She was the lady that gave Andrade the phone number on a napkin.
Was she the same person that did the same thing at Collision?
I don't think so. I think that was two
Okay.
different people. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, which by the way, Andrade is turning into a mixture of Rick Rude and Eddie Guerrero on AEW. So, tune in.
By the way,
Wednesday.
one of the best main events in Dynamite history.
That
last
was a great match.
That was such a barn burner. Early candidate for match of the year.
Absolutely.
That's especially TV match of the year. And when you get that kind of Andrade, what's the word I'm looking for? The possibilities are endless.
Right.
He could be pushed to the moon with that kind of performance. That's world champion caliber type of performance he had. And Sorg was great too. And they had really good chemistry last night. Sorry, I had to put that in there.
No, you're good. Just a couple more to name. Tiffany Nieves would be great. I think though, if Tony Khan could pull like Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio from WWE, that would be legit. Like Dominic Mysterio is great, but imagine him in CMLL wrestling some of those guys. I would love it. Or I don't know. Probably won't happen, but if that's the fun of this, is we get to come up with some interesting answers. That's about all we got on today's show, my friend. Like I told you, I pulled off that TikTok segment because I knew this would be a long episode. So probably for the best. But any last words before we start closing out, my friend?
Yeah, no, you weren't kidding. We probably would be just getting to the wrestling stuff if we had the TikTok, and we'd be here till midnight. So I appreciate that. Rumble's on Saturday, so obviously that should be probably a big focal point for us next week. Is to kind of, I'm not paying $30 for to me the Rumble. I probably should because it is the Royal Rumble, but that's one of those that I feel should be on ESPN. I get it. You want to be behind a paywall, get people to buy your streaming thing. I get it, but I don't know. We'll see. But
so here's the thing. ESPN announced that YouTube TV will be included in the unlimited plan by the first half of the year, but Royal Rumble is not included. So my assumption is it's probably WrestleMania is when it's going to be ready.
That would make sense. So I guess we'll find out next week, obviously, who's the winner of the Rumble matches, setting up the road to WrestleMania. Get our thoughts on that, see if AJ won or lost, and see if our ideas are in the possibility phase or are completely dead. We'll see. And the most important thing is to make sure that we don't freeze to death. And we have to survive Snowmageddon and Wintry Weather Part 2 and all that jazz. That's all I got.
Alrighty. Well, before we send it back to my guy for the final word, let's just close out the same way we always do. Got to thank all of our affiliate partners, W Energy, WWE Shop, RSS.com, and StubHub. All of those links are in the description box. Make sure to use those links and help support the podcast in any way possible. Go to w.gg, use the code Beyond the Yard, and save, I think it's 25% now on your order. I could be wrong. It might be a little bit less. They updated it a little bit ago, and I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but use the code Beyond the Yard, save a little bit of money on your order. W Energy, I love it. It's actually a really good product, and you should support the podcast that way. Scan that QR code if you haven't already. Join the Discord community. Once we start getting a large enough community, where the plan is to start being a little bit more active in there. So go ahead and join, get set up, and join the conversation. That way we can talk about all of these segments and more in greater detail throughout the week, and not just on this live stream. If you're going to watch Royal Rumble, I think I'm going to watch it. I have Fubo, so I get it for free. So I'll tune in and I'll get to watch it, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll keep you updated on what might be AJ Styles' final match, and WWE at least. So, but other than that, we'll turn it back over to my man Kody Marinara for the final words.
I wish I had my shirt on tonight, but I don't, because like I said, I'm supporting the Rumble week. If you go to our website, there's a shirt that has the famous saying, if you wear it, you will be extra saucy. That's all I can say. So go to the website, get the shirts, get all sorts of the merchandise we have on our website. And let people know that no matter how good or bad your day is going, what you're going through in life, you're staying saucy. Yes. So last week we did pretty good with creating stuff that had sauce in it, and it lasted through the weekend. I hope we do the same this weekend, because we're going to need it. We're going to need something to warm up the body. We're going to need something to keep the body energized and fresh. But the only way to do that is by basically getting the best sauce with the boss sauce, whatever you want to call it. Get that damn thing out. Put on that damn thing on the stove. Warm that shit up. Stir that thing a little bit. Put your favorite seasonings in it, your toppings. Put whatever you want on it. Consume it however you would like. So especially during this weekend, during the Rumble, because there's not much happening sports-wise unless you want to watch a snowy NASCAR race on Sunday now.
They're going to put on the snow tires on Sunday.
Let's see it. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go. Ross the Rumble, wherever you're watching. I feel bad for our Hawaiian people. They got to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning to watch the Rumble. You can still be saucy at that time of morning. You can be saucy anytime you want. So tonight, tomorrow, the weekend, the Rumble, and into next weekend, until we see you again next Thursday, I would like for all of you to stay saucy, friends.
Alrighty, everybody, tune in Saturday. I'm going to post my debrief of the Buffalo Bills head coaching search finding its conclusion. You'll see that on Saturday. Tune in next Thursday again for the live stream, and subscribe, like this video, share this with your friends, and we'll see you next week. This has been an episode of Beyond Junkyard.
This is wrestling without the filter. This is Beyond the Junkyard. This is wrestling.